Today on the podcast, we have Tia Coachman. So I've known Tia for a while. I knew her when she was at Wyden and Kennedy, and quite often I didn't really know what she did. And so, she's a strategic HR partner. She works with a lot of different companies, especially when the coronavirus hit. HR departments really had to step up their game because you have industries that don't have a lot of opportunities for work from home and working remotely for their employees. And so they're either letting them go or, they're having to make a big shift. And so what Tia does is she goes in and she helps coach people through all these different things and help them navigate and really advocate for the employees. She has a lot of experience in it, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And it's just great to see how she was able to take what she's doing and not be beholden to a company, but become a resource for all companies. And so, she's in terms of moving and shaking. I think she's definitely the epitome of it as a Black woman in Portland, just doing what she needs to do and staying true to herself. And so, it was a great conversation about just identity and staying true to yourself and pursuing your path despite anybody that's, in the way of it. And, I'm pretty sure that, the coming out of this, she's definitely going to be coming out on top. And so without further ado, let's listen to Tia. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me for a little bit, and especially in the age of Corona, where
Right.
everything is uncertain and unsure and just out of our control.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Like they can't look at the Olympics is canceled. Like
Right.
how the Olympics, like I gotta wait
Yeah.
another year.
Yeah.
So it's just I think that's just that it's just crazy to kind of just see things happening in real time, that
hmm
things that like our grandkids and stuff will read about in history books, and
Right.
just kind of just, yeah, it's just sort of an interesting time to be in you
It's
know
an interesting time to be alive for sure.
Oh my gosh. And so how has this sort of affected you now that like we're quarantining and it seems to being more and more quarantine mandates every day? How has this sort of like affected you, just like your daily life?
Well, I'm home alone. Because I have children and I co-parent with their dad. And so like this week they are with their father. So I'm home alone all day, every day by myself. And I get a break and I get an opportunity to like really focus and like hone in on some of the things that I need to do. So when I do have them, I'm also, um, I've gotten a lot of stuff out of the way where I can focus on them, and, be super mom.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to be super mom when you have to homeschool and run a business
Oh my
and,
gosh.
be all the things for all the people. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so
And I
how
say that truly. Truly.
uh so last when I first met you, you were working at Wyden and Kennedy, right?
I was.
And then before I knew it, you were no longer working at Wyden and Kennedy. Or like, so you're kind of in this would you say you're an entrepreneur at this point? Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I have I left Wyden Kennedy and started working at another agency in town called 247 Laundry Service. Was HR director there. And then I recently left the agency, brought all together to open up kind of a consultancy for HR practitioners. So I basically serve as a strategic HR partner on externally for various organizations and the HR leaders that serve them.
Okay. So like what does that actually mean? because like when you talk about like HR and stuff, you tend to think
Yep.
of like, the adult, like the adult workplace version of like seeing the principal, you know?
Right.
And so
Right. Right.
like how, like what is that space?
So HR is a really, really lonely position to fill. It's a lonely role to be in because you're making decisions about people's lives and their livelihoods, right? Every single day. And there are some organizations that have large, HR teams, like say the Nikes of the world. But then there's smaller organizations where there's just one person who is responsible for these really huge decisions about the people, not the money, but the people, and how the people affect the money, right?
Yeah.
And so what I do is I serve as a partner, HR for HR. I serve as a partner to those people who need help kind of thinking through and fleshing through ideas, thinking through decisions. They need another perspective to be brought in. They need to think outside of the box a little bit on how to solve for one of their people problems. And they don't have the necessary resources in house to do it. I also serve organizations that straight up don't have HR, right? A lot of nonprofit organizations don't really have an HR person. And so they may be operating off of outdated policies. They may be operating off of policies that are inequitable, right? That don't take into account inclusion or diversity because they're written like 15 years ago. And folks really weren't in that space like they are now. Um, or they don't have a handbook, or they don't know how to, they don't know that they need an emergency response plan or a business continuity plan, right? What's going to happen to the operations? Who's responsible for doing what in the event of a crisis? Similar to what we're in right now, right? So a lot of companies are like, oh shoot, we got to get our house in order. We need to have a plan for if this were to happen again, because in January, no one knew they would be in this situation where everyone was working from home,
Yeah.
right? Including those organizations that were hesitant to put a work from home or telecommuting policy in place. They didn't believe it was effective or efficient. And now, guess what? They don't have a choice and they don't have a policy for
Yeah.
which to kind of have guardrails around how do people work from home? How do you communicate? When, how are teams supposed to interact with each other? How are clients supposed to interact with their team, their assigned teams or whomever, you know? So, you know, all of those things are things that people don't necessarily think about when they don't have the experience or the resources in house. And so I come in to partner and fill those voids.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh
Is that
yeah,
clearer?
yeah. That clarifies things a whole lot more because when you think
Yeah.
about, I mean, for me, when I think about HR, it's like this thing that's adjacent to what I do, but like not really. And because I work on back end and front end stuff, so it's like I'm not dealing with consumers for the most part. I'm dealing with
Right.
sort of the tech stuff, and so whenever I think about HR, I'm just like,
Mhm.
huh.
It's people,
It's
right?
people.
HR is responsible for the people in the workforce, right? So I see employment as a transaction.
Yeah.
Okay. The employer and thus the leaders, right? Because the leaders are agents of the employer, they're representatives of the employer, are responsible for providing a environment that is conducive for the people who they have hired to do the work they've been hired to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that is not just the physical space. Yes, you have to provide the physical space and the equipment and the materials and a welcoming space, an inclusive space, a safe space, right? But also compensation,
Hmm.
right? It has to be worth my while,
Yeah.
right? Um, and on the flip side of the equation, the employee their contribution is to come in and give the best of their talent to the work of that organization. That is what they're responsible for. That's their end of the bargain. I come in every day and I give my best of my talent to the work that I've been hired to do.
Yeah. Huh.
In return, I get all these other things. My job as an HR practitioner is to make sure that that equation stays equal.
Okay. Okay. And so,
My job is to make sure that employees are holding up their end of the bargain and employers are holding up their end of the bargain.
huh. So it's like uh HR is like the positive workplace environment advocate, and you act as sort of the resource, the outside resource that supports the advocacy of the positive
Yeah.
workplace environment.
Yes, because in a lot of cases, in-house HR does not have all the resources or the experience, right, that they need. I bring an experience of I've worked in several different industries,
Yeah.
right? So that's a broad range of different types of people in the workforce. I work for federal government, state government, retail, real estate, advertising, nonprofit, and so those are very different types of workforces,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I bring all of that experience into, organization A, who maybe has an HR team of two people,
Yeah.
and one person is the director, and the other person runs payroll. you know, and they don't know anything about building organizational culture,
Yeah.
or if they do, they may not have the bandwidth,
Yeah.
right? To be creative in the way that they solve their cultural problems, right? They may not have the bandwidth to, review and revise with an equity lens their policies, their handbook, right? They may have some really great, budding ideas that they need to flesh through so that they can present it and pitch it to their leadership,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have time to do it, or they're just in their heads about it because they don't have anybody else to talk to about it
Yeah.
and brainstorm with. So I come in to serve because I know what they're going through. I was once them.
Man, that's a. I feel like when we talk about HR, that's such like a big role to have, and then it sounds
Mhm.
like you kind of take it a step further, and albeit you're using all your experiences and everything, but you're kind of taking over a even more crucial and grander role than that, because you're supporting somebody across sectors that only probably only deal with particular problems, and then you'll go
Mhm.
to another client in another sector that's working on a completely different problem.
Right.
It's a that's woo.
I mean, it's great. If I were to look at it, and I tend to kind of um, simplify what I do to make it, easier for people to understand because it can be a little complex. If you think about like a family unit, right? You have your family, and let's say it's matriarchal, right? So the mother is the head. The mother is the one that's making sure that everybody's good, everybody's doing what they're supposed to. Whoever's supposed to be bringing in the money is bringing in the money. Whoever's supposed to be doing the chores, whatever, right? That's so HR is kind of like that, like you were saying, the principal, right? It's the
Yeah.
mother. I am serving as like the cool auntie,
Okay. Okay. So you just
right?
pop
I'm the
in.
person that the mother confides in to say, you know what, these people driving me crazy. This one's not doing their chores. This one's not bringing in the money. Boom, bop, bam. And I'm the one that that mother will respond to or brainstorm with and ask for advice and guidance. But I can be, I'm auntie for several different mothers, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Okay.
You know what I mean? For several different family units,
Okay.
right? It's your family, it's your business, it's your organization. I'm on the side
Yeah.
helping you out.
Oh man. So how did you get into this? I mean, like I don't know a black person that I talk to that's coming up that's like, oh yeah, I just want to get into HR. I see you could do this, 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 and this, and
Mhm.
I think I'd just make a killing in that. I don't know anybody that I've yet to meet a person, and so like, what got you into the line of work that you're doing?
I did not I did not set out to be in HR. I did set out to help people help themselves. And in all of the roles that I had prior to my like official HR role, I was always taking care of people who were at work.
Okay.
You know, I was always helping them to understand how to do hold up their end of the bargain better. And I realized, oh, there's a thing called HR. Like there's a discipline where this is what people do all day every day. Um, that's how I got into HR. I did not, I have a business degree from Howard and an MBA, and I none of that had anything to do with HR. You know,
Yeah.
um, but it was just the experience, and the experience, my professional experience, but also my personal experience. I am. And have always been surrounded by creatives and people who think big and people who create from nothing and people who solve problems. Um, and I've always been their advisor,
Hmm.
right? So I just took what I was doing in my personal life and got paid for it.
Oh, hey.
Found a way to get paid for it.
Hey, you
We all
know?
should be. What do you do well? What do you do with your eyes closed? What is your superpower? Then figure out how you can get paid for that.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the things that I'm like slowly learning to do now, because I mean, growing up playing football, being in sports and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, it's easy to wrap my mind around. Like, all I gotta do is just be good at football and just make a tackle or run over somebody. And I can get paid to do that for the rest of my life, right? But
Mhm.
people often don't think about, those non-tangible things that dealing with people, understanding scheduling and understanding how people work and succeed in certain climates, and that you could actually get paid to do that for a living, and you could
Mhm.
actually start your own business doing that and get paid to start do that for a living,
Right.
which I feel like is, you've kind of like taken it to the next level, is not only doing that for working for a company, but now you're working for yourself and you're doing that, you
Mhm.
know?
I think the other part was, I realized what was missing in my life when I was an HR director and I was leading HR teams. I needed HR. People used to say that to me all the time, which is who's your HR, Tia? Who do you go to when you have like problems at work or where you have an intersection of your personal life and your professional life and you don't know which way to turn, right? And so I realized, oh, that's something that's really missing, and I think I could be that for people. So it took some time of reflection for me to figure out what was missing in my life, and maybe, just maybe, this was missing in other people's lives as well,
Yeah.
personal and professional.
Okay. So is it like, how's, now that you're like owning your own business and you're navigating that space, what was the biggest thing that has changed, aside from like the work that you're doing, just to like kind of maintain and like keep the business rolling, like in terms of like marketing, or because for the most part, like, if you don't make money, it's because of you and not because
Right,
of other people. And so, like,
right.
what was that sort of, what did you notice was the change in working for another company and doing the stuff that you do versus working for yourself now?
Um, the things that used to be impossible or hard to achieve are no longer obstacles.
Hmm.
It's like, you know, it's like having a roof and you see this roof, you know it's there, you know you can't go beyond it until one day you can. And the sky's the limit. And the only thing that's keeping you from getting to the sky is you. There are no leaders telling you no, that's not priority, we don't have money, you know, there's hierarchy, none of that. You just it's go. It's go time. And there's nothing in the way. That I had to like really sit with that. Um, because as a black, female executive, those obstacles are real, you know? Folks will tell you you don't know what you know.
Yeah.
What you know is not right. Or no, you just plain can't do that. You know what I mean? And now those obstacles are no longer there. So you have to kind of reprogram and recondition your mind to believe, yes, I can. No, there's not anything in the way. Um, I know what I'm talking about. I know this will work. I trust myself. And there's no one else, literally, there's no one else here to care
Yeah.
about whether or not I'm right? Or have judgment on whether or not I'm right in whatever decision I'm making. It's literally like make the decision, trust it, and go with it. Period. That is that's hard reprogramming when you're no longer someone's employee.
Yeah, and how much sleep do you lose off like with that sort of accepting that as reality, like is that hard to is it hard to balance sort of like your day-to-day responsibilities with the reality of like having a whole lot more responsibilities?
No, I guess because it's exciting. It doesn't feel like responsibility. Yes, I have the responsibility of putting food on the table for my children. But the responsibility of making, which are now kind of like life or death decisions,
Yeah.
doesn't feel like a responsibility. Whereas when I was, someone's employee, every decision I made felt like life or death.
Yeah.
If I make the wrong decision, is my job on the line? And if my job is on the line, will I be able to put food on the table?
Hmm.
I don't have that heaviness anymore because I trust myself.
Yeah, I guess people don't often really think about it that way, where
Mm-mm.
you have the control and you have the skill set and you have the control. And so most times people will have a skill set, but they won't have the control over kind of their destiny and what they can do. And
Unless they
unless they take it, and then if you add experience to it and and you're not kind of a sociopath and you could actually talk to people and get contracts, you
right,
know,
right,
then you can kind of, it takes away a stress that you would typically have from a workplace environment that
exactly.
we've all had horrible jobs and stuff and we had horrible bosses that we didn't want to deal with, but like you just kind of just omit that whole thing from the picture.
And I would venture to say that in the situation where we are right now, where many people are working from home, I would venture to say that employees will now feel more empowered to do their work and will level up their quality of work or their commitment to the work or their engagement because there is a physical removal of all of the judgment that you walk into when you work into a workplace. How long am I sitting at my desk? Is someone looking at me because I wasn't at my desk for 10 minutes? And if you got on my phone and I'm on Instagram or I'm researching, something on my phone, am I going to be looked down upon? Right? Or, what does my workspace look like? Is it messy? I work well in messy. I don't, but some people do,
Yeah.
right? I work well in mess, right? And their coworker is complaining, but they're getting work done. Like I really feel like this whole work from home situation is going to bring out the best in people because they get to be who they are
Hmm.
in more ways than they ever were able to be in a controlled, curated workspace
Yeah.
that was supposed to be for everyone, but not really that inclusive.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like it yeah, that's actually really true. I mean, as I'm like sitting here in a comfy, you know, with
right.
a with a Deadpool picture behind me. Like
Exactly.
this is where this is like being in this space. I'm able to create a whole bunch of different things, come up with ideas that I'm able to pitch and do a whole lot more with that. And I know that every time I go into like a client's office, I look around and I'm just like, I don't know if I can't do what I do in
Here.
here. I just can't do it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it,
So that's why people get inspired when they go into places like Wyden and Kennedy. And it's like, this is the most progressive workspace building I've ever been in,
yeah,
versus, coming from cubicles or coming from, some other, more controlled, more structured type of workspace. And so that's why creatives thrive in that environment
yeah, yeah,
because they really get to make it their own, really.
yeah. You know, it,
you know? So, yeah, I don't know how we got on that topic, but
hey,
that's what
that because this is what you do. Like you think about this stuff, and you got me thinking now. And so how'd you get to Portland? Like, because you said that you have your MBA, you went to Howard. Howard is not near Portland. I mean, it might be near Portland, Maine, but like not near Portland, Oregon. Like, what you brings you all the way out to these parts?
you know, I was following a man. No, I was married and my I was a trailing spouse because we got an opportunity at Nike. So he got an opportunity at Nike. And so I moved here sight unseen with a 3-month old and a 3-year old. And Portland was really calling me. Like I was ready to leave DC. Um, and so when the opportunity came, I was like, let's go, you know? Um, and I had no idea what was waiting in Portland for me, but something. I mean, really, my spirit was being pulled by the city. Something about it. Anytime people will ask, like, where would you move to? I would always say the Pacific Northwest. And I didn't really know anything about it. I just, knew a couple things and knew that it was beautiful. And I didn't know that, you can go a block or to the grocery store or the bookstore or a restaurant without seeing another Black person or a person of color.
Right.
Nobody told me that part, but that's okay. I figured it out. um, yeah, yeah, and that was almost 7 years ago.
Oh wow, wow. And so, what has been really the biggest like every time I think about like being in Portland because I moved up here for to try to get into OHSU. I mean that's literally I'm I'm slowly but surely getting there, but but all the things that I do on like my day to day were not things that I came here to do. They were
Mhm.
just opportunities, and so I always like laugh that I used to before I was here I was living in LA, and I get more and more of the impression that like this is LA for a lot of people in a lot of different industries,
Yes,
where you come here because of an opportunity and you're actually able to uh, get that opportunity and like get closer to it without having to like sell your soul.
yes, yes. And you have a pace of life that is manageable,
Yes. Like
right?
if you want to work if you want to work as a barista, you can do that
Right,
and pay your bills. But also, if
right,
you want to be like an animator, or if you want to, go from school to school and teach coding, if you want to work for Nike, if you want to, only do print ads, like you could do all that stuff here and not have to pay like 3,000 for a studio.
right. No, that's real. That's real. Um, and yeah, a lot of people don't know that about Portland. I used to tell people Portland is the nation's best kept secret.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I think that people only think about Portland for the Trailblazers
Mhm.
or Portlandia. And that's it.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
that you just see on TV.
Yeah. No, there's so much here. I mean, I really came into myself here um, and found, I found my essence. I found my, um almost purpose even, and what I can do for others. I really figured that out here in Portland because one, you have so much inspiration,
Yeah.
you know, and you get time to think about it. If I lived on the East Coast, I wouldn't have time to think about this kind of stuff because just the pace of life is so much faster and complex and intense, you know. Whereas, there was a moment when I lived in on the west side in Forest Heights and I was working in the Pearl and I literally drove my commute to work was through the forest. Every day going and every day coming. Can you imagine the kind of setup that is for a working day? To drive through the forest and all these beautiful trees and architecture of tunnels and whatnot. And I'm just like, all right, I'm ready. And then on the way back, it's a what do you call it? A release,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, all right, I left all that shit on the other side of the forest.
Oh man, like it's because I'm from Sacramento, and Sacramento's coined the city of trees, quote unquote.
It-
But like when
oh,
I moved, yeah, you wouldn't even think that. But then when you get here, you'd be like, dang, like I honestly don't know where they got that name from because Portland has so much Portland has so much like nature entwined with it,
mhm,
and almost to the point where like I feel like I've living here, I've gained years on my life. Just the air's cleaner, freaking
right,
like the water's cleaner. Just
right,
people aren't cussing people out for no reason.
right.
Like just like those day to day stresses that like I've grown used to, uh,
Yeah.
just are kind of a thing of the past. I feel
Mhm,
like I avoid those things just by just like being out here.
yeah. And how do you go back?
Oh man, like
You know?
every time I go back to Richmond, California, I'm like, I'm gonna be here for
I'm like,
what?
how y'all do this?
I got to do this, and now I got my girlfriend with me, so like I'm able to sort of, you know, project some stuff onto her, so like she feels a little
Mhm.
bit, so I'm not feeling the grunt of it. But I'm like, man, I gained an extra 2 years of life, but I might lose another, 3 or 4 hours. Like, it's it's very real.
Yeah, that's real. It's real. So yeah, Portland has a special place in my heart for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so one of the things that like I'm really curious about, being that we are in Portland, and it often for some people, for some black people in Portland, they'll go, a couple weeks without seeing a random black
Mhm.
person. And you go from business to business. Um how is it sort of dealing with that dynamic of being a black woman in the business space in Portland, and with diversity being kind of the buzzword of the century, diversity and inclusion, and you walk in and like there's no it doesn't
Right.
really it doesn't really look that way in the
Right.
in the real world.
Um, I think that the first way to deal with it is be 100% authentic to yourself, right? So um I walk in this place, short, black, and bald head. And they're like, "Who is this person?" Everyone's like, "Who is this woman?" And I say bald head because I wear a really short haircut. Um, and I know that about myself, but I also walk in with all of my experience and all of my knowledge, all of the skills, all of the abilities that I have to manage and lead, um, the work of HR. And so the first thing you have to do is show up, right? That's part of the reason is there's not a lot of folks just showing up in these spaces. I've recruited, and currently I'm helping some organizations find candidates, and there aren't candidates of color. There's no talent of color applying to the roles.
Hmm.
And it's not because we haven't reached out. like, I personally have reached out into my own networks, into organizations that are specific to the betterment of people of color and talent of color in the professional realm, and they're still not applying, right? So part of it is just showing up, right? Being available and showing up as who you are. Because then you can foster real relationships with people. If you are not authentic to yourself, then you're not going to be able to build relationships with folks, and folks won't have an opportunity to get to know you, right? And I'm talking at leadership level as well, right? Because relationship well, let's just say this: business is built on relationships and trust.
Yeah.
Period. That's why who you know matters. Because, oh, you know that person, but do you trust them? How well do you know them?
Yeah.
What's your relationship with that person? Don't give me the referral if you don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? So it's all based on relationships and trust, and you can't have that if there's a lack of authenticity.
Hmm.
So I make it a point to show up everywhere I go as me, right? And part of me is really focused on building community. Black person in the space, guess who I'm talking to? Guess who I'm introducing myself to? Right? Because I see you. I see you, Black person. If no one else in this building sees you, I see you. And I need you to know that. Right? That'll change somebody's day in Portland. Don't we have a nod?
Oh yeah, man. You
When we
you
walk
got you got to nod. You got to look. You got to
you
wink.
gotta smile, you gotta wink. Why? You know what that is? Acknowledgement.
Yep.
If no one else on this block sees you, I see you. And that matters in the workplace and on the block
Mm-hmm.
or the grocery store or the restaurant. Right? So that is my, my first, if it's my first tool in my toolkit of how to go in and out of these spaces that talk Black Lives Matter, and yet there are no Black lives in the building.
Yeah, but you'll see a poster and a T-shirt.
Right. Right. And so, if that's how you really feel, and I'm showing up to you as my authentic self, let's see if we can form a relationship here
Yeah,
and build some trust.
man.
And then we can talk about business.
Right, man.
Mhm.
That's a ooh, that takes a certain level of confidence to walk in and kind of really just do the work, because I know for me as an artist, it I I pride myself on I just draw circles and scribble and do all that stuff. And, at the root of it, like that's what I do. But I have the confidence to put something on paper and then try to sell it for $200 and
Right.
actually sell the deal. Whereas some people don't have that. Some people can't even get to that point where they even want to put the pen to the paper.
Hmm.
And so to even like physically show up to spaces and be like, okay, this is what I do, and this is what I'm here to do, and this is what I can do for you. I mean, it like who has trained you in the ways of the Jedi?
That's a spiritual practice, to be able to pull yourself out of the depths of um, like not believing in yourself and self-defecating and um, um, to pull yourself out of that kind of darkness of not being able to be and not being able to be who you are, but also like being okay with who you are, right? A lot of people aren't okay with their differences, right? I'm very much okay with my differences, but I had to get there. And what the first thing I had to do is recognize what those differences are, right? What sets me apart from other people, good or bad, good, bad, or ugly. Like what sets me apart from people, and then accepting and being okay with those differences, right? And then figuring out how to exist with other people with my differences, right? So you talk about, all you do is scribble and draw circles, right? which is different than what other people do. And other people may not understand why or how you do it, but that doesn't matter. It's something that you do alone. And how do you how do you exist with other people who are doing different things, who don't necessarily get what it is you're doing? They don't understand it. But how do you exist with them? Because they're doing something else, right? That you might be inspired by, or that you can learn from, or you can just support, you know? Um, but the first step, the internal work really does come from you. It really comes from you being able to say, hey, this is me. That's why I say I'm short, black, and bald. Because I mean it.
Yeah.
Like those are my differences. There ain't a lot of us walking around in Portland. So people say, that HR lady, the short one with the short hair, she dark skinned. That one. Everybody knows who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Because I name who I am. I name my differences and I own them. Right? And I figure out how that exists with other people who aren't like me.
Man. Whew, man, you might as well just start teaching online courses on how to do that, because this is another revenue stream right here. Man. But yeah, it's I think especially in Portland, it's very easy to get alienated or isolated from other people just based off of just like physical differences, especially for Black people. You walk in with a particular hairstyle and it's like, bam, there we go. And
Right.
so it's what I think other communities don't necessarily have to worry about or think about, that become a very real reality once you even start a new job.
Hmm.
And but nobody, I feel like nobody really, it becomes hard to articulate it sometimes. It's not that it doesn't exist, or it's not that people don't notice it. It becomes very hard to put it to words and actually talk about it in a meaningful
Hmm.
way, because it just, it is often sort of avoided, because there's,
But again, that's that conditioning.
yeah,
We've been conditioned to not talk about it.
yeah,
We've been conditioned to not talk about how our physical attributes are actually an asset,
yeah,
are actually a positive distinction, right?
yeah,
We've been conditioned to just like, we're not even talking about, why are you talking about that? You know?
mm-hmm,
So there's the learning curve of being unapologetic that many of us are going through. And I don't think that there's any one person that can say, oh, I've mastered being unapologetically who I am. It's a journey, you know and so, but you got to start. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to start walking.
yeah,
You got to get going on the journey. And there is no master that can teach you. That's self. That's spiritual.
yeah.
That's between you and your God.
Yep, it's you and some time, and you got a lot of it at this point.
Yeah.
It's and I think it really tells to sort of kind of the value of investing in yourself, and the
Hmm.
value of finding who you are, and what you want to do and what you want to leave
Hmm.
behind, because um really I feel like you know the generations now, we're starting to think about really like a legacy, and
Hmm.
who we are as people, and not just what we have to offer to other people.
Hmm.
Like what our value is to ourselves, and to really, yeah, providing a legacy. And so and so
Someone told me that this couple of weeks back, but we are the new ancestors. When you talk about legacy, you and I, Stephen, are the new ancestors. So, what do we want to leave that we didn't get? Or what do we want to pass down that we did get? Or, we think about our ancestors and how strong they must have been, how courageous they must have been, right? How daring and um, mighty they must have been to endure all that they went through, right? Holistically, personal, professional, whatever. I'm talking about holistically. All the, pioneers, in various industries, if we're going to taking it to the level professional. So you think about those people, but there was a moment in their life where they weren't thinking about you or me. They were thinking about themselves and how to do better for themselves. And eventually they realize, okay, there's going to be another generation beyond me, behind me, that I have to leave to or give to or share with. And you and I are in that place now. We're the new ancestors.
Yeah. Whew, man, that's got me thinking now. I was like, dang, I need to. It's like it's that feeling you get when you realize that people are watching, and
Yep.
so then you start so that the walk that you normally have tends to get a little straighter.
Hmm.
You start looking at your feet like, man, maybe I should like turn my feet in a little bit more so I don't look like I'm walking like a duck. You know,
Right. Or maybe I should stop wearing this shirt with a hole in it. Or
yeah,
maybe, maybe I should, maybe I should like walk in the direction of good practices and not, vices, because somebody's watching.
hmm, yeah,
you know and there's an awareness of who you are and where you are. The funniest thing I saw yesterday was on and I've taken like kind of a sabbatical off of social, but I saw in a news article where they were talking about how the government and just people keep saying like millennials are the ones out on the beach, spreading the coronavirus. They on spring break. It's millennials, millennials, millennials. And so a bunch of people were responding back like, what? The millennials are the frontline workers right now.
yeah,
The millennials are the ones who are sitting at home trying to figure out how to make a home office and also homeschool.
yeah.
That is what the millennials are doing right now. Millennials ain't been in school for, a decade or more.
Yeah, like what?
Right?
Because
Those
millennials
are That's a
finished
whole other generation out there on that beach.
like because millennials are like what is the what 95? Like I think it's
Yeah,
like
I think the youngest millennial right now is 26.
oh yeah, millennials are out there trying to keep the hospitals open right now. You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's the boomers, they're the ones, and even Generation X are like, they have made millennials synonymous with like youth,
yeah,
right? But they don't realize there's a whole nother generation that is the youth right now. We are grown and adulting hard. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Um, and so what I was thinking about was, yeah, it was hilarious, but also there's an awareness of where we are in our lives, in the journey of our lives, and what we are contributing to the world in this generation.
mm-hmm,
And that is why I say we are the new ancestors. Not to mean that we're going to die soon, but we are the ones who are really like orchestrating the survival.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, like without the millennial generation, we really wouldn't have video chats. We wouldn't have any of this
Exactly.
stuff, And man, you got me thinking, man. Like it was. It's like okay, boomer, okay,
Right.
But it's a yeah. It's just it's interesting times. Like I'm curious to see like one how this how 2020 goes because
Right.
I remember, I kid you not, I remember I was like, man, 2020 is about to be my year. Look at 2019 and 2018 were trash. I can't wait to start, like I got things lined up. And now
Mm.
we're in this time where I feel like it really sort of, we're in a time where it's really testing that conviction.
Oh, for sure.
Like, are you really about this work? Are you really about getting stuff done? Because you know,
And this test is real. Let me tell you, because I was one of those people that were like, you know what? I'm starting 2020 over on February 1st. Because January is just too much. January 2020 was too much. Okay.
man,
It was so intense. You talk about a test? It was so intense. And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna wrap. We're gonna wrap January. We're gonna throw that with 2019 and start all the way over February. And in February, all kinds of things hit the fan,
yeah,
right? And then March. Like, you're right. Like, this is the test. When you think about, I would say to people, I don't know if I could have been in the civil rights era, or I don't know if I could have been in the what's it called? Right after slavery. What
I
was it
mean, it's
called?
Jim
The
Crow. Yeah,
Reconstruction,
yeah,
right? Like, I don't know if I could have been alive. I don't know if I would have survived it. There's gonna be some kids, many generations beyond you and yours and mine, who are gonna say, I don't know if I could have lived through coronavirus.
yeah, because
I don't know if I could have lived in 2020.
people
Because
were.
that was a hard year for the
I
world.
mean, because people were having direct correlations between this and the Spanish flu, and that happened like 100 years ago.
Exactly. And you know what? I don't know if I could have survived it in 1918 or wherever it was.
Yeah,
You know,
you know,
or the Great Depression.
like we're in a time now where the world is testing whether you wash your hands.
Yep.
Like that, you know, like not even like anything like you don't wash your hands right and you're gonna get got. Like that's how that's that's just it's just wild.
It's wild.
Wild. Not bullet trains, not
No,
freaking but washing your hands.
your hand,
it's
right?
it's so crazy. And so to wrap it up, one of the things that I've been being that's the Black Rose PDX podcast, and I think you're like the fourth person that I'm like saying this, so I probably should stop prefacing it now. But it's the Black Rose
Yeah.
PDX podcast, talking to black people in Portland that are kind of pushing the culture forward. And like what is the blackest thing you've done in Portland?
I had a blackety black kickback in February at my house. And I fried fish, cornbread, I fried chicken. I made some cornbread. My homegirl made some macaroni and cheese. We played Black Spades, which is an amazing article on the Root right now about Black Spades, how to
Okay.
play Black Spades. It's hilarious and it's great. We played Taboo. We did all kinds of like black stuff. We were just black. We walk in black and we left very black. And it was intentional. It was on, this year was a leap year.
Okay, yeah.
And so we had an extra day to be, celebrate Black. We celebrate Black 365, but we got to do it one extra day this year. So we had the kickback on that date. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I'll invite you to the next one.
Oh, yep, definitely got to. Like, it definitely got to. One of the things I always tend to say, going to Rod's because Rod's is always a very interesting place, But recently, me and my girlfriend went to because I live in Old Town now, like Northwest, and so we walked over to the Safeway and the Pearl. And, Safeway and the Pearl during the coronavirus, you might find something. So we're walking down the freezer aisle and I'm trying to get like some frozen berries and everything. All that stuff is gone. And I see in the freezer aisle, like there's the TV dinners and then there's just like a open rack, just a free rack with like a couple little things there. Just like things that like people would kind of buy, but like they're not trying to like break the bank if they really don't have to. I see 2 packages of frozen chitlins just sitting there. and so like, and mind you, this is the Pearl in Portland, right? And so we walking down Safeway. You see 2 packs of frozen chitlins, just 2. And so
Frozen.
frozen chitlins, just two. And so I looked over at my girlfriend. I was like, so what in the world is so who the heck bought all the other packages of chitlins in the age of Corona?
Right.
We getting frozen
Toilet
vegetables.
paper and
Yeah,
chitlins,
we
okay?
getting toilet
Ooh,
paper.
my.
We getting frozen peas, canned beans, and chitlins. It's like it's like this is it's like what?
First of all, if they're frozen, I don't know how I feel about frozen chitlins because chitlins need to be cleaned very well, and it takes a long time. So I'm not sure how I feel about frozen chitlins
Yes, but
in the first place.
I'm not sure.
That tells you who's buying
Oh my gosh. Yeah, who is buying these frozen chitlins at the
them.
Safeway and the Pearl?
Right. That is some wild stuff.
Man. But yeah, to finish up, I think are there any things on the horizon for you? You know, I'm always curious to see like what you're up to next every time I see you, and I feel like there's always something, either have a new job or or something, like I'm always like are there any things on the horizon?
Yeah, I am looking to really scale my business. Every day I told you, I get an opportunity to think about, how this can be bigger, how I can reach more people, how I can help more HR practitioners. Um, and so, I'm looking to expand the ways in which I am able to do that. So, it going, even further than just being a strategic HR partner, but, also into recruiting, and sorry, um, going into some other ways. So, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
gonna be good.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited. So, yep, I appreciate the time. Thanks for the conversation. Uh,
Of course.
I will definitely let you know when I post this, and then you can blast around and all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks for being a part of this project.
Of course. I told you, for you, anything.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It's I think that I think people will enjoy this episode.
Okay, great. I hope so
Oh
too.
yeah. So yep, stay safe, stay out of the corona, try to keep the
I
kids safe
will
as well, and I
wash
will,
my hands.
yeah, wash those hands.
You too.
Oh
All
yeah.
right.
Yep. So have a good one. Again, I want to give another shout out to the Soul District Business Association and Flossom Media for helping me put this on. I'm your host, Stephen Christian. I mixed and mastered this podcast. I also did all the interviews. And if you see any of the stuff on YouTube, I put all that stuff together as well. With all the social distancing things right now, I'm producing this right out of my home studio. So if you have a chance, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Medium at PDX Black Rose, which is PDX BLACKROSE. And if you're on Patreon, hit us up on there. We would love your support. If you don't do anything else, definitely rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. And on top of that, be sure to share this with your friends. The purpose of this podcast is to highlight the movers and shakers in Portland that are doing things in the Black community. And by supporting this podcast, you're supporting the community as a whole. So with that being said, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the flip side. The intro song is brought to you by Andy Stokes, and the outro song is brought to you by Spring Gang from Epidemic Sound.